Hey guys, so I am going to look through one of my Etsy shops. I have two Etsy shops. Well, actually I have three, but one obviously being the most active, the third one being the least active, like I don't have time to take care of it. And the middle one, while we do get orders, it has dropped significantly since last year. I'm going to go through it so you could see my process of how I, want to fix my, my Etsy shop. And the reason why I haven't looked into it sooner, because the drop has happened for a while now, it's simply because while I have, my Etsy shop, my Amazon, my .com, it seems to be the lowest of the priorities because there's so much other things going on as well as Handmade Mastermind, but also because, while the profit margin on it is great, it's not as great as my stationery business, because this shop sells wedding items. Okay, so usually the average sale is usually much lower, etc. But it doesn't mean I should ignore it completely. So I decided to take a moment to double check what's going on with it, and I wanted to show you my process. The goal here is to identify what's wrong. So I'm gonna walk you through that, and then the other goal is come up with the action plan of what I'm going to be doing to improve it. Okay, so first, and I'm not gonna obviously show you my screen, I'm gonna walk you through it of what I'm actually doing, and hopefully you can take some notes and see how you can apply it for your own thing. So I'm going to the shop stats, and it's best to compare a 30-day time frame at minimum. If you want to do 60 days, it's fine, especially if you don't have much data in 30 days. And I compare it from, this year and last year when time was good. So you want to compare the same time frame, apples to apples, this year, last year, but it has to be a time frame when business used to be good and no longer. So for example, I'm doing June, because right now as this recording, it's July 2nd. So I'm doing the month of June, last month. And I'm comparing it to last year, June, right? So apples to apples. And I've dropped significantly. I've dropped, you could go to your Etsy stats and obviously change the time frame to look at it. So right now I'm doing last month, and I see the revenue has dropped 78% and the number of orders 73%. Okay, makes sense. The visits have dropped 56%. Okay, so obviously it compares it to last year automatically for you, but I still want you to go to the stats of last year. So I changed the custom and look at that. So what I do is I go to the custom, put in last year's dates, and I start taking pictures of it on my phone. I'll explain why. I take a picture of the first thing you see, which is total views, visits, orders, and revenue, okay? Take a picture of that. Then I scroll down to see the traffic sources and search terms. I take a picture of that as well. You want to be able to see the percentage and the number. So pretty much the whole entire screen, okay? So I'm taking pictures of that, and that's it pretty much, okay? Now, before you leave, I would take pictures of also the listings. When you go to the tab listings, it shows you the first thing is the most visited listings. It's important to take a look at that and take a photo. Now, after you do that, then you could go to the current time frame, which is the one that sucks, right? Because you're obviously trying to help your Etsy shop from a period that used to be great and no longer. And we're comparing apples to apples. So if last year June was great, how come this year June isn't? So again, I'm taking pictures of the listings. Now I am going to the last month, which in this case, because I'm in July now, is June, right? So I'm trying to compare it. The purpose of taking the photos, guys, is to be able to compare your screens. So it's important to compare and see what happened. And so instead of going back and forth, you have photos of last year when time was good, and then in front of you have this year when times got rougher. And so you can start to see the differences. And the first thing I want you to do, hold on, moving my screen. Okay, is the top portion, you see total views and visits, okay? You obviously probably already know visits and views have went down. Fine, and it shows you the percentage. You don't need a screenshot to see that, because you could see it. It compares to year on year. But you're interested in seeing if your conversion rate went down. That's the first thing I want you to do. So the conversion rate is number of orders divided by number of visits, okay? People like to do it by divided by number of views. It doesn't really matter how you do it as long as you always do it that way, okay? Because if today you do it by number of views, right? Number of orders divided by number of views, and then a month from now you do it by number of visits, it's not the same comparison. It's gonna be different. So I'm gonna do number of visits. So last year, you wanna do last year first when the time was good. Orders divided by number of visits. Okay, and it looks like my conversion rate was 5.9%. It's actually almost 6%. Okay, so when you do the dividing, you're gonna get a decimal number, times that decimal number by 100, or move the decimal over 2 times to the right, and that's gonna be your percentage. So now I have last year's percentage in conversion rate. This year, I have it on my screen. Remember, we have the phone to look at last year, and we have this year on the screen. So I take 63 of order, divide that by my my visits, okay, and it looks like I'm at 3.6, so I dropped. Okay, so now we identified that I've dropped in conversion. We're gonna attack that piece later. I'm writing, you have to take notes when you're doing this. So I'm writing this year's 3.6 and last year's 6%. We'll get back to conversion rate because you could easily identify that your visits and views dropped, right? And I want to attack that one first. So now that we have our conversion rate written down and you eyeballing it, you could easily see that your visits and views probably went down. If it didn't and you made less money, then it's probably conversion rate. And then you could scroll past this video toward the end of it, I guess, and look when we talk about conversion rate. For now, I want to talk about traffic, which is usually a lot of people's problem, and maybe with a mixture of conversion rate. Anywho, so now I'm scrolling down, okay, and I'm seeing traffic source and search terms. So I'm going to go to my phone and look at that picture that shows traffic source and search terms, okay? And then you're looking through the search terms. You took a screenshot of that as well, so you're going to go through that and take a look. And now the idea is to compare this year to last year. Write down all the phrases that used to get found for a lot last year that you're not getting found for this year, okay? So I'm zooming into my photo here. I'm not getting found for some phrases because I could easily see this year it's not there, but last year it was one of the higher ones. And obviously it bring me in money. And then the next one, I'm also not getting found for. Again, we're writing these down. You're comparing to last year and saying, okay, which phrase that I used to get found for last year that's not on my stats this year, at least in the first page, or maybe second if you want to go through that. Okay? To my green card, okay. Green card. So this might take a minute, but it's important that you go through it and do it correctly. One of them I found, last year I used to get found for it, and this year it's half the amount. So I'm still gonna write that down. So I'm still being found for it, but not as much. That's also important. Okay, so I'm continuing to write these down. I'll show you why in a minute. But remember, I'm not getting found for them anymore, or potentially not as much. I have a lot that I'm not getting found for anymore, and that's a huge problem, right? And so what I'm starting to realize easily, I'm not getting found in search for these phrases anymore. And after I'm done writing down a few of them, and you might want to take some more time to write down some more. So I just did the first page and I'm not getting found any of them anymore, or at least not as much. I obviously have a second page I could look through, but for the purpose of making this video not so long, I'm gonna skip that for now. So now that I have phrases that I'm not getting found for anymore, so what happened? I used to get found from, not anymore. Things changed, right? From last year to this year. Etsy has changed their search algorithm. Potentially these phrases are not as relevant anymore, so they're not high in demand anymore. I could tell you by the phrases I'm looking for, they're very, very basic. So in my wedding items, I sell wedding decor signs such as, you know, Instagram signs and, you know, in loving memory signs and, you know, wedding bathroom signs. So very simple things, and usually the same phrases don't go out of style, you know. So, you know, wedding bathroom sign, if I'm not getting found for it anymore, I don't think that particular phrase is, you know, people are changing the way that they search for it, potentially. I think I just fell off a search for it. And so if I didn't change anything and I'm not getting found for it, what the hell's going on? Etsy obviously may have changed algorithm, etc., etc. You guys know if you're in my private SEO group that I am trying a new title and tag method, particularly tag method, fine. But I have to double check that these items were, don't ever trust yourself and say, oh no, I used to get found for them, so I'm sure the SEO is right. Not necessarily, you know. And you know, it's important for me now to say, okay, these are the phrases I'm not getting found for anymore. Let me go to my shop as if I was a customer looking at my shop and see, you can search within your shop, right? And see what items have these phrases. So I'm gonna do wedding day cards. Used to get found from, not anymore, and my wedding day cards are usually my most popular. You know, the cards you give during the wedding day to my bridesmaid, to my groom, to my bride, blah, blah, blah. So what I do is I go to the search bar within my shop and I type in quotes. It's not gonna 100% work, by the way, but it'll be good enough. Wedding day cards, the exact phrase I'm not getting found for anymore. And see how many items in my shop have this, you know, are optimized for this. And so I'm looking, now if you know my title and tag method, you know, there's some basics that everybody should know, right? The phrase, if it's high demand phrase, definitely should be in your high demand phrase, and high saturated phrase should definitely be in your title. And so wedding day cards, I probably have to even look at it. I know it's a high demand phrase, okay, because it's a very simple phrase people look for. And it's probably highly saturated. It describes many products that are wedding day cards. So I'm hovering over my listings and I'm looking to see if that exact phrase in that exact order is in my items. So I'm looking. And it's very important to consider plural versus non-plural. So if it's plural that you're looking for and you find that phrase in a non-plural version, it doesn't mean you're really optimized for it. It's also important to note your most popular items that used to be popular, not anymore. So looking at your screenshot that you took of your popular listings, you could say, okay, I mean, depending on how many items you have, if you have tons and tons like me, you might want to focus on the ones that used to be popular, why they're not popular anymore. Oh crap, I have to take a picture of it, but I told you to take a picture of it, right? And you could compare and say, all right, let me take a look. If you don't have much items in your shop, doing a search for even a smaller amount, you don't have to look through the most popular, just look at everything you have and say, am I optimized for this? And if you are, then maybe you should look at the ones that used to be found for and say, okay, these are the ones that used to be found for. They're the ones that used to get sold. You know, are they optimized anymore? You know? And if they are, again, in general, and then my new tag method, potentially, you might want to look if that phrase is still even relevant. It's important to do so. Never assume. I just assumed if you saw earlier, but later, if I'm already optimized for this phrase, then I might say, you know what? Now you don't assume. Check if in Marmalead, if that phrase is still, you know, people are searching for it. So as I'm hovering over, I'm easily noticing that wedding day cards is not optimized in most of my listings. I found some of the listings that are, I'm still hovering over, by the way, to check the title. I haven't even checked the tags yet, right? But I'm about to soon. But I'm hovering over the title and I see that some of them have the non-plural version, only some, not too much of them. And I have 49 listings that have this so-called in there, you know, it's coming up for it, you know? Let me check one of these listings to see the tags. And not just check one listing, check more than one listing, you know? Yeah, it's not as optimized. And so what used to work is not working anymore. And I'll be honest with you, it looks like some of these were not as optimized as should be. I happen to be found for wedding day cards, even though I optimized for some of these for wedding day card. And yes, I used to get found for it, but because Etsy has stepped up their game, more competitors are in the market, you know, blah, blah, I feel that it's very, very important to go back and say, okay, are these really, really optimized? And some people think that they are optimized, and the reality is, because you don't ask for feedback, especially in the private SEO group, you're actually not optimized. Okay, so I did one of the search, found out I'm not optimized for most of them. And I'm starting from the top highly searched phrases I'm not getting found for anymore, because that's the best way to do it, right? Because if you lack the time, you could say, okay, let me start with the best ones. So I'm trying another one, to my groom cards, and seeing if I'm optimized for that. Now, I only have a very limited amount of these. Okay, so it won't take me long. I have 9. To my groom cards. To my groom card. So it's interesting, I find. I have to check if that phrase is still relevant. I'm not optimized in any of them for that. The plural version, I'm optimized for the non-plural version, but I'm getting found for the plural version. See, this is the process I do. I'm looking at my tags. I'm also not optimized for the plural. Let me take a look at my SEO tactics and see if it's still a phrase it's being searched for. Interestingly enough, hold on, let me double check Marmalead. I'm gonna check the plural and non-plural version, which sometimes there is a difference, okay? And this takes time. You going through each phrase, seeing if you're seeing if you are still optimized for it, and checking to see if Marmalead in search results to see if it's still popular enough and in demand enough is important. Because if you find that you're not optimized for it, but there's no demand for it, then you got to find a new phrase, okay? So according to Marmalead, at this moment, there is not a huge demand for either phrase, okay? I am currently optimized for the non-plural version. Is it important to and the auto search bar auto populates the non-plural version? So is it important for me to try to optimize it for the plural? Maybe not. But when I take a look at my SEO tactics to see what auto populates, it's the To My Groom card, okay? And looking at this month's stats, this past month's stats, I'm not getting found for that either at all on many of the pages. So hold on, let me see if I was correctly doing it. To My Groom card. I would probably recommend to myself to use my new tag method in this case. However, when double checking these, again, you may find that To My Groom card or cards is no longer the phrase to be searching that's high in demand. When I look at the auto-populating thing, it says To My Groom on our wedding day. That may be the more popular one. So me going back in and re-optimizing for it is probably important at this point. Now, does that mean that sometimes you'll have to go do SEO once a year, twice a year, maybe 3 times, depending on your business? Yeah, but that's the business that we're in. If you're relying on SEO to get found, this is the life you signed up for. I know that sounds dramatic, but this is it, you know? And so optimizing for these items, for these phrases, is not the only thing that will get you to the top of search, obviously. Because you could be doing that right, but you're still not getting found. Saturation has a lot to do with it. So if this phrase is saturated a lot, it may be very hard for you to get to the top of search. And then after that, if you find that it's not really heavy saturated, or if it is, I would still probably, I would probably go into promoted listings and go into those specific items that used to be popular, that you maybe fixed, optimized correctly, and make sure the photos right, all that stuff. And then setting if you're already promoting it, then setting a slightly higher cost per click, okay? Because it's not getting found anymore. Yeah, so the ones that are getting found for that phrase for me are other ones, not what used to be my most popular ones, okay? Right, so again, I probably would try to go into promoted listings and say, okay, if I'm already promoting this item, then am I getting a decent amount of impressions, clicks, etc.? If if I look at promoted listings and I'm already promoting it, if I'm not, then promote it, right? And then watch it and see if you could increase cost per click. If I am already promoting it, then I would go ahead and say, okay, what's my impressions to clicks? So let me do that right now, okay? I think I am promoting this one. So I'm gonna walk you through what I would do if, again, you're optimized for this listing, this phrase, and many of your listings, but you're still not getting, found as much. I'm gonna go from my promoted listing section, and again, this is an example of if you're already promoting it, how do you make it better? Let's take a look. Promoted listings. Okay, so again, we're looking at the last 30 days or whatever time frame you're doing. I'm doing the last 30 days, which was actually last month. Okay, and I'm gonna search through my ads and find the card that I was referring to. So I'm just typing groom and try to find it. Okay, so I have a couple of groom cards being advertised. So let me take a look at a couple of them. So in one of them, the impressions is only 44 in the last 30 days, okay? That's not a lot. I have 2 clicks. It's not a lot of data to determine, but the idea is you look at the impressions and clicks and say, okay, 2 clicks divided by 44. And so your conversion rate from views to clicks is, in my case, 4.5. That's actually pretty good, okay? But 44 impressions is not enough data for you to actually determine if it's really effective or not. If that makes sense. And right now my average cost per click is 9 cents for that item. I spent 19 cents and I got nothing back yet. But again, having only 2 clicks is not enough to tell you whether it's good enough. But for 30 days, I'm only getting 44 impressions. Well, maybe because it's a low demand item at the moment. The to my groom type of, phrase is not like super high in demand. On my wedding day, I'm checking for another phrase on Marmalead, and maybe that's why the impressions is not a lot, but I'm not gonna assume that it couldn't be a little bit more. So I'd probably increase in this case, I'd probably increase my cost per click. What you want to be looking for, okay, besides that obvious one, is saying, okay, well, this one has a low impression, a decent conversion rate for amount of people that look at it, that they actually click. But the ones you're looking for are to say that you have a lot of impressions and not enough clicks, right? So you're taking the number of clicks divided by number of impressions. If it's a very low amount, 1% or below, or even lower than that, then the issue probably lies in that photo is not converting compared to the photos around it in that search. So you have probably multiple problems now, not just probably SEO, blah, blah, but your photo's not converting amongst your peers that have the similar item, okay? And that's a whole nother video. Okay, Marmalead, let me check. Yeah, it's still a low converting item. Again, 0 to 50 searches in these type of groom situation, phrases. So having 44 impressions it's fairly accurate, so I obviously know Marmalead's accurate. I only got 2 clicks on it, but I'm still probably gonna increase the cost per click just a bit to see if it shows more. It shows this item more. I currently have it at 9 cents. Oh, sorry, not 9 cents, 10 cents my bid. I don't want to go too high because this is a low priced item. So I'm gonna increase it to 13 cents. It's not a lot, but again, my item's only $4, this card, But I'm testing. When you do promoted listings, you can't just set it and forget it, You gotta adjust and keep watching it. All right, and so you could go through that and do the same thing, but to find items that have a high amount of impressions and not enough clicks, and you have other issues now with the photo and the competition around it. Now, what I could say also for the item I just changed to 13 cents, could it have had a higher number of clicks? Yes, it could have, because it's exactly what that person's looking for. It's a to my groom card. It's a to my groom on my wedding day card. It's so relevant, it scares me. However, people do have other items that are exactly the same like that, so maybe the style is not what people want. But what could you do to improve that photo? Whether, people sometimes think that their photo is fantastic when that really isn't. However, in my case, I really do think it's a great photo. Can I do something better to improve it? Possibly. However, I want to look into doing other things to get the people to convert and click. What could you do? You could run a sale. I'm not encouraging to run sales and make, you know, prices much cheaper, make no profits. I'm just giving you the options. You run a sale. So you know Etsy has a feature in marketing section that you could run a sale. And that sale, let me show you exactly what it is. It's not a coupon, because coupon is something that people have to be given, the code. But a sale, let me go to the marketing sections in the sale and coupons. Okay, the sale section, if you go to a new offer, new special offer, is run a sale. That sale will show that sale in search. So it might entice them to want to click more. So when they do find that listing, they may say, hey, I'm getting 10% off. Whatever you decide, you know, this tiered sales, like, you know, if you buy 3, you get, you know, whatever off, whatever. And that may help move inventory depending on what's right for you. So if I hit run a sale, I might come to that conclusion later, obviously off camera. I might, when I continue doing my research, I might say, you know what, let me try to do this to help. Now, again, I'm not a big fan of sales and stuff, but sales obviously will help boost your online presence, will help boost your search presence. And so doing so for a short period of time or a longer period of time may help it enough that when you turn it off, you'll still be fine. Just don't get out there. And so you could do percentage off. I think it used to have a tiered option, but I'm gonna do, let's say 15% off, just for example. You could do it by quantity, like they won't get 15% off until they add multiple items. If you're a shop that doesn't necessarily get multiple items in one transaction, then it doesn't make sense for you to do that. You're not gonna get any takers, right? Because it's like nobody needs 2 personalized baby blankets for the most part, right? I mean, it's a keepsake, that's it. But if your items are meant to have multiples, such as mine, people could shop within my store because they could get multiple bridesmaids cards and blah, 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 then it makes sense. See what makes sense for you, set it, and that may be something that will help people convert from impressions to clicks, okay? And this is the result of me looking at my promoted listings and saying, you know, I was promoting these items. I could probably change the cost per click, but if my impressions are not getting enough clicks, then that's probably a bigger issue. So running a sale is one of the ways I would possibly go about it. Another one is potentially changing your photo, looking at the search results of to my groom's cards, to my groom on my wedding date cards, whatever phrase you're looking for, and look at the people around you. Look at the people around you and say, okay, and again, I'm doing this for each of the phrases, by the way, and each of my items. So I'm going to my groom on our wedding day cards and saying, okay, let me look at my competition. Sometimes Etsy will show the bestseller tag, okay? And so while every designs could be different, fine, look at the bestseller tags if there is one in this situation. If there is one in this situation, then you probably want to look at what's going right in this photo, what attracted people to this photo, and I could easily see in my situation why. So in that case, I could see why mine probably needs some work. Just throwing it out there. I'm trying to be very unbiased. And by the way, you could always be better, right? I'm looking at another one that I'm not really impressed with the photo at all, but somehow it's still a bestseller, you know? It could be the text on it, not necessarily do they all have to my groom's cards, you know, to my groom on my wedding day card, etc. and so forth, you know? But it happens to be a bestseller. And so you're trying to copy design, you're trying to understand why this photo is sticking out more than other ones. And this happens to have a few bestseller tags. And so I could say, okay, how can I stand out amongst this crowd? You know, how could my photo be different? What kind of graphics should I add to my photo? Etsy allows you to do that, where you could add, like, you know, a little banner or something that says, you know, you can add your own bestseller tag, or, you know, comes in multiple colors if that's important to your customer. What's important to your customer, you could obviously have that as a banner tag. And there's multiple things you could obviously do to bring in that traffic. Yes, your competitors are not having to run a sale or whatever, but we're trying to get back to the top of search. So doing what you have to do to control the amount of sales you get when you get the people that actually look at it is super important, okay? So now I would do that same process to all of them, okay? And obviously if you're gonna go ahead and fix, which I might have to, I know I have to, SEO, that might take a huge portion of your time. So being organized is so important. because you want to make sure that when you take care of some items in SEO, that you've marked off that you took care of the items, so that you know you've taken care of them and what date. I use SKU sheets. I'll link that video down below how I use SKU sheets. So I'll be using my SKU sheets to mark off the ones I want to fix in total, and then I can go back and say, okay, let me fix these items in SEO. Fix, and mark them off using my SKU sheets. I could keep track. When I mark them off, I'll probably write the date as a mark. And so I know that today I fixed all my groom's cards, and tomorrow I fixed all my bride's cards, etc. And that will help me understand if I did it today, then I could check, not a week, wait several weeks to a month or so to see how it's performing after I changed SEO, okay? By having the date, you could also go into your stats and look at the prior 30 days and compare it to the new 30 days and see if anything has changed. Also writing down what you've also done before besides SEO, such as I might end up doing, and this is just an example, changing my photos and potentially even changing my cost per click and running a sale. These are I might not do all three, but I'm just giving you an example. Writing down what you've done on what day is important, so then you can say, okay, from July 1st, I did this, and that. So I could check at the end of July to see what has happened for the July month. And I could compare it to potentially, June, because you have to know when the day you started it. So you could compare when I wasn't doing it to when I was doing it. And this is what I'm gonna be doing, okay? What else? So this is what I want to go through my process of how come I'm getting less traffic, because I am. Now, this does not take care of the process of why my conversion rate has dropped, okay? My conversion rate has dropped. It dropped 2.4%, which is quite intense, okay? And so why has it dropped? Now, when conversion rates drop, it means people have viewed your items and did not purchase, compared to last year where more people who viewed your items actually did purchase, okay? So that means they looked at it and decided it wasn't right for them. But you might say, Dahlia, it used to be right for them. What has changed? Well, we're selling in a marketplace that other people are around. People are people are utilizing Etsy's new sale features. People are utilizing a lot of these different things. So the few things I would do, and I'm giving you advice, many pieces of advice. I'm not saying you have to do all of them. I'm giving you your options. First, to help conversion rate, again, running a sale. I hate the fact that I'm giving this option for you because I'm not trying to say put everything on sale. I'm just showing you the possibilities of what may be right for your business. And it's important to understand that you could complain and moan about, I don't want to run a sale, I don't want to run a sale. But if your competitors are doing it around you and that's what's going to help convert, you can still not do it and be, the bigger person and not run a sale, but you're not going to make money. And you might not making money may not help you get back to the top of search, because eventually after you finish running that sale, you may stop it after several months and still stick to the top of search when things start to get better again. So I'm not saying it as a permanent strategy, okay? But sometimes when you're selling on the Etsy platform, you have to play their game because you're with other sellers. Okay, so they obviously went somewhere else and purchased from somebody else. So running a sale that's evident, so running the sale that shows 10% off, or eligible orders get 10% off, or buy 3 get 10% off, whatever, may be very helpful for you to convert that customer. Etsy has this new thing where somebody puts something in their cart, they get an email, I think within 24 to 48 hours, and potentially even an email when they favorite an item. You don't have to do both. You could do either one or try both. It doesn't matter, but these are going to help conversion rates. People are unsure. Some people more than others will have people that put their items in their cart. Like, people that sell very high priced items might throw items in their cart. So having that campaign might be very, very beneficial to you. For others, it may not be. Some businesses, it's not very common that people put the items in the cart and wait on it, because it's not really a big impulse purchase. It's not really expensive, And sometimes you could tell this by actually testing this out and seeing how many emails get sent, okay? Because they charge you 10 cents an email. And if you're not getting much email sent within a 30-day time frame, then probably means that most people don't put your items in your cart, and they usually convert if they really want it. Then you might want to test out the favorites one, because people might favor your items more than they do just putting in their cart, and that might help you with conversions, okay? And unfortunately, while you can see people running sales like your competitors, you can't see if they're really trying the whole email scenario out or the favorites. The only way you could test it out is going to each of your competitors, adding their item to your cart and favoring their item. I think if you set your favorites to private, I'm not sure if that actually works, by the way, because I don't think it would. But if your favorites are not private, then you'd probably get that. And that's the only way to test to see if your competitors do it. It seems like a lot of work, but I would go ahead and just skip trying to see if your competitors are doing it and do it yourself to see if you get conversion rates better. Again, you know, I'm not a big fan of running sales, but I'm hoping that even before this video that you know that pricing competitively for profitability as well is really important. But if you cannot afford to price 10% off, 15% off, then you probably have bigger issues, okay, than watching this video to help. So that's a few ways you could increase your conversion rate back. You also want to take a look at, while you did not change anything in your listing, if you didn't, that doesn't mean things can't improve within your listing. So looking at your listing to say, okay, you know, based on what customers ask me all the time through messages, what are they asking me? And can I answer that within the variations of the email, of the listing? You know, the options, the drop-down options, or the description. You know, it's important to do that. So if they're asking you about other similar items, are you linking to other items? If they're asking you, does this come personalized or not personalized, having that as a drop-down menu option, or what have you. Thinking about what they're asking, think about what your target market is asking, because sometimes what they do is they don't ask and they move on to the next you know, seller. Like, oh, she doesn't offer this, move on. Because I look at these To My Grooms cards, and I'll be honest with you right now, a lot of them look similar to mine. Not exact, right? We're using different fonts, different like shapes, but they're all text on a white card, and they look very similar. So if one person has, you know, something different and much easier to understand, then they're probably doing it right. So if you want to know, if you're completely clueless about why listings are not converting and you think that your variations are perfect, roll my eyes, insert here, then look at your competitors. Understand within your market what variations are they using that converting customers, especially those bestseller tags, okay? To educate yourself and how you could improve your conversion rate. But obviously, if your conversion rate was never a problem for you and you just drop down in views, then you probably don't need to fix anything. Me dropping 2.4% is a big enough deal that I might have to do something as well besides fixing SEO. But if you find that you're dropping like 0.3%, 0.5%, that may be, you know, that may be not significant enough for you to think that there's actually a conversion problem. Does that make sense? While I'm actually working on it, because I was going to work on it, I noticed that because of my type of business, and this may be relevant to some of you, you know, it's hard for me to compare, you know, it's hard for me to look at a time that was really good and fix things now to make it better, because my product is very seasonal. So I can't expect, if I fix things now, for things to improve, because my busy season is starting to slowly end. Hasn't ended yet, but so it's slowly end. So another thing to kind of keep, you know, take note of is looking at your most popular listings from last year going on to the next month or so, because I'm trying to fix listings so in the future, the near future, hopefully, I'm getting money, I'm getting traffic, right? So I've made it a point to look at, because I just started July, so I made a point to look at last year, July and August, and say, okay, you know, things might adjust and change depending on your shop and the seasonal items. Like I said, I'm in the wedding business, so definitely, you know, seasonal. I'm looking at the most popular listings then and trying to improve those. So not just looking in general apples to apples, but looking last year for future months, okay, to see what you can improve, because that's the months that are going to be coming up soon. So July is pretty much here, and I want to fix listings that used to do good last July. And a lot of times you'll see that they correlate, depending on, again, your seasonal market and when it ends, when it begins. But some of them are correlating for me. I also want to point out that I'm looking at listings, you know, so one way is the way I taught you. I mentioned toward the end of the video that another way is to look at listings. You can go into each of your most popular listings and see the phrases that used to get found for, and adjusting your SEO for that. But before you do, you know, it doesn't really matter if something got the most visits. It kind of does, not really. It matters if it got a decent amount of revenue, because I have some items that got a lot of visits but didn't convert well, so that's important to look for, because what's the point of optimizing that if it doesn't make you money, which proves that the customers love it, you know? But you want to go down and sort by revenue and see what bring you the most revenue, you know? Some items may be flukes. Like, I have a couple items that bring me a lot of revenue, but I had only one order, so because the amount that they got, the quantity was very large. So that's kind of a fluke. It was only one order. But you're looking for the other ones that stand out, that bring you the majority of your revenue, and that's what you should be fixing. Things that used to bring you revenue that no longer bring you as much, so you have to fix those, okay? So I hope that extra tip has helped you, okay? I'm going to point out another thing, guys, because again, I'm in the process of editing and changing SEO and fixing it like I said I was going to, and I'm noticing that, and I'm just telling you this as a tip, you know, because I do this often, but when searching for the phrase that you're no longer found for your popular item that you want to be found for, besides adjusting your SEO, you want to search for it, see what's around, blah blah, but also find the items that potentially that of yours that are actually getting found, and if they're not so relevant, okay, or in demand, then it's important to change the SEO of that item so your one that used to get found or is more relevant shines. So I'm going to give you an example, okay, what I'm going to be doing. So my To My Groom card was a very popular one, no longer as popular as it used to be, and you know, when looking at search results, it seems to have bumped itself to I think it was a fourth page or something, right? Yeah, fourth page or so, which is far behind enough. And then when I look at the search results for the To My Groom on my wedding day and all that jazz, I get found on the second, third, and fourth and so page, right? It's important that the items that are being found, the second, third, whatever page, regardless if they're getting viewed, if they're visually being found and not clicked on potentially, or even get clicked on, it's important to possibly change it if it's not as relevant. So the ones I'm getting found for are not cards that say To My Groom. They're cards that actually work for the groom. Like I could, if I was getting married, I could write this card to my groom. One of them says You Are My Greatest Adventure. The other one is You Are My Greatest Adventure, but different style. And the other one is You Are My Greatest Adventure in a different style, all three different styles. And they're all getting found. This is on the third page. Let me go back to the second for a second. And then one of my not so popular at all styles of the To My Groom card has somehow, you know, on the second page. And hold on, let me double check to bring this point home to you guys. Every love story is beautiful, but ours is my favorite card. Again, you could give it to the groom, but it's apparently it's being shown there, but it's not, and you can double check your stats obviously before you make that conclusion, but it's not as relevant, you know, as a To My Groom card search that actually says To My Groom. So what would I do then? My opinion for you, if you find that other items in your shop are taking the limelight of the item that should be in the beginning, is to change the SEO so it doesn't have just To My Groom on there, even though it's somewhat relevant. You could give it to your groom, but it doesn't necessarily say that. A more appropriate phrase would probably be like groom card from bride, or something in the sort. And again, generally speaking, I wouldn't have minded it being that way because it's fairly relevant. But when you're looking at to bring your most popular listing that used to be popular back to the top of search, it's important to get rid of the ones that are blocking its path. Okay, yes, there's such thing as called clumping, and multiple items will be found on the top page, but you're not always guaranteed to clump, right? And so removing the items that you feel are less likely to be clicked on by the customer when searching for that phrase is important, so your other items have a chance to shine through and get clicked on. So I'll be going into those items and changing the SEO to those so it can remove that very popular phrase. And the phrase, by the way, is one I used to get found for a lot with that item, and to change it up a bit, okay? Hey guys, just wanted to give you an update. Now that I've applied what I'm trying to do to several of my listings, I'm not done yet. But I decided instead of doing all SEO, trying to attack every listing and make changes and blah, blah, I decided to attack a group and then do everything else to it. So right now, I've changed SEO to listing. I renewed it. It's not the best strategy as it used to be, but it's still something. I have applied what I feel is a strategic sale for my type of items, and even did the campaign for if somebody favorites or puts their item in my item in their cart. The purpose of me doing all three is to see what works best, so I know in the future, because this shop I never really run a sale on, so I don't know what my customers would respond to best. It's not necessarily something that I want to keep all three running, you know. I just want to see what works best for me. And now the update is I'm about to change the photo. Here's why I'm about to change the photo. While this photo always worked well before, here's a little lesson I want you guys to learn. You used to sell this item all the time, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't change the photo. I searched through the phrase that used to be popular for, to my groom on my wedding day, and to my groom card, blah blah, a few of those, and I saw what's around me. I saw what's on the first and second page, mostly the first. And the idea is, you know, will my item stand out amongst this? What is the common theme of how the photo looks like with the best sellers, which I mentioned earlier, etc. and so forth. So I have to understand the common denominator. And then, is your item matching that theme? Like, like, if in my situation, am I using for the groom card, am I using a very popular masculine color for the envelope or even the ink? And in my case, I also looked at the contrast, because I want the design, the photo, to stand out. Remember, we're competing against a sea of other people. Does mine stand out enough? And I conclude that it did not, so I am here redoing the photo, and really quick, and then uploading. So again, I'm attacking, and again, depending on what method makes you more comfortable, instead of me doing all SEO, then going back and then checking all the listings to see how they look, Juju, stop. Mama. How they look compared to other listings around it. I'd rather do it as I go. So when I'm done with this listing that used to be popular, and I'm trying to make it popular, I'm done with everything for it. SEO, photo, blah, blah, blah. And then I can move on to other listings, okay? So I hope you find that tip helpful. I know I keep coming back, but as I'm going through my process, I want to share with you exactly what I am doing. And again, I have my SKU sheet here, okay? And I'm writing on which SKUs I've updated the SEO, blah, blah. And what else have I done? You know, renewed, in general, I ran a sale on my whole shop. So, you know, that's general, not just particular items. And you could run on particular items, FYI, Etsy allows you to. At this moment, I'm choosing not to. And I'll mark the ones that I'm changing photos of, so I know what I changed. If I've tried everything and it doesn't work, then we have a bigger issue. But if I didn't try everything and something hasn't worked yet, then I'm able to see, oh, I did not change this photo. Let me try changing this photo, see what happens over the next 30 days, etc. You know? Obviously, my testing won't work for me as it gets toward the holiday season, because my shop is slower during the holiday season. This is a wedding shop. It's not very busy during the holiday season, so, you know, I really should have did this changes earlier in the year, but you know, in this case, it's still better late than never, because I still have time to recoup it, because there's still, you know, a few months before the busyness slopes down. Okay, guys? Before I let you go, when you go to your stats, you could easily see within the listing section what items, you know, if you're comparing to last year, what items used to get found a lot. If you click on those items, you could see so this wedding bathroom sign, if you scroll down, when you click on that item, you can see which phrases it used to get found for, okay? And that is no longer getting found for, because then you could compare to this year and say, this sign's no longer getting found. It's not getting found for these signs anymore. It's not optimized, it's more anymore. And you know what? You know, just note that sometimes it may still be okay optimized, because like you said, you didn't change anything from last year, but SEO does change over time, and more competitors come in the market, you know? So I have some work to do, and I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions, comment down below and I'll do my best to answer them. But I have a lot of work ahead of me, so I'll catch you guys later. Bye.